So today I'm gonna be needle felting Pokemon, but in Among Us.
Fight!
I've done a lot of needle felting on my channel. I started a whole series where I needle felt this or that. I like it. It's quiet, it's violent, it's therapeutic. I've already needle felted Pokemon. I've also needle felted Pokemon in Squishmallow form. In fact, I've taken the liberty to hide some of my previous Pokemon creations throughout this video. If you find them, you can keep them. Today I'm taking things a step further. I'm adding to my Pokemon collection by stabbing together some Pokemon as Among Us crewmates. I've got my handy dandy styrofoam block to needle felt on top of. You guys love suggesting the weirdest things I could use as a base. I've tried the sponge recommendation, did not work. I've also tried the yam. That's a no-go.
Why do I regret this?
The latest recommendation is needle felting on top of a banana. Yeah, so needless to say, I'm no longer taking recommendations. Recommendations are permanently closed, but thank you for your valuable input. I posted a short where I showed off my tiny little needle felted creations, and I got a lot of comments asking how to needle felt. It's a tedious process, but not a lot of instruction involved. You basically just keep stabbing until it does what you want. The smallest Squishmallows I've ever come across are the Squishville Squishmallows, and my creations are much smaller than those. Microscopic. But some of you guys insist I need to further downsize, so today I'm gonna make the tiniest Among Us Pokemon crewmates known to mankind. These are definitely, by far, going to be the most minuscule things I've ever made. With that being said, needle felting on this small of a scale comes with its own challenges. You might have noticed I'm actually wearing finger protectors today. I don't always wear these because they're annoying and I feel like I don't need to. I don't stab myself that much. Today I've made an exception though. I'm wearing them because these things are so small and I'm stabbing so close to my fingers. I wouldn't want a series of unfortunate accidents. Basically what I'm doing is stabbing some soft, delicate, little fluffy eggs. I wanted to start off with an egg shape for my Among Us crewmates and then build off of that. Perfect. So now I've got a whole carton of colorful eggs. Each of these eggs is gonna end up being its own sus little Pokemon. Maybe you can guess which ones they'll be based off the colors I'm using. Or maybe not. In which case, I'll surprise you. Among Us crewmates don't have much anatomy, but they do have legs, so I'm stabbing a crevice into each and every single little egg. Normally for these kinds of projects, I like to use my multi-needle tool. There's multiple needles, so it makes the whole process move a bit faster. But today you might notice I'm sticking to my single needle a lot. That's because I'm working on such a small scale that the multi-needle tool is basically rendered useless.
1 hour later.
I think with that addition, they're now starting to look less like eggs and more like Among Us, which is good. That's what I'm going for. We're off to a good start. Alright, now I can give each one the attention they deserve. I'm taking this opportunity to further define his butt crack. I tried to find some orange felt, one that would be a close match in color to the wool I just needle felted. I'm trying to make a little backpack out of it. I'm not entirely sure of the correct terminology for it. Some people think it's an arm, others claim it's an oxygen tank. Some go as far as acknowledging it as a tumor. It is whatever you say it is. There's no wrong answers. I'm calling it a backpack. I started stabbing that down, but then I realized I've lost my finger protectors along the way. I keep taking them off because I just hate them. They're uncomfortable and annoying, and I'd honestly rather just stab myself. But with all that being said, I want to be a good influence to all of you aspiring needle felters out there, so I'm gonna wear them for your sake. Usually needle felting works kinda like magic. You just stab it in place and everything just magically sticks. This time though, things weren't exactly sticking. That's alright though. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. Fabric hot glue works like a charm every single time. I'm trying to make him look as much like an Among Us crewmate as possible. I'm even going so far as adding the classic window face. It's looking a lot like Among Us, but this looks nothing like a Pokemon yet. This one's meant to be Charmander, a classic. I added some more detailing to the window, some highlights, some shadows, trying to make this look as 3D as possible. Charmander's key feature I'd say is his tail. Without his fiery tail, it would be kinda hard to pass this off as Charmander, so of course I can't forget that. For the fiery edition up top, I added some raw, textured wool, a couple different colors. To me, that looks like it's on fire, so I'm counting this as a win. Hot stuff. Next up, we've got Pikachu.
Pika-pee.
I actually always call my wife Pika. She reminds me of Pikachu. Something about her short stature, her lovely blushing cheeks, and that mostly charming squeaky voice.
Pika-pee.
So cute. You can't make a Pokemon video and not make Pikachu. That would just be disrespectful. I made Pikachu's tail out of felt. A lot of the details I'm adding are cut out of felt pieces, including Pikachu's ears. I'm making these Among Us Pokemon basically on a microscopic microscopic level. So stabbing in these tiny felt pieces isn't always working too well, so you'll see me using some fabric hot glue when necessary. Tricks of the trade. I'm not entirely sure how to add the black tips on Pikachu's ears. I could add felt pieces, but that might not look too clean. Stabbing black wool on is out of the question when working with such tiny little appendages. The only real solution is to use my fabric markers. I probably didn't even need to needle felt Pikachu. This crewmate looks pretty much identical to the Pikachu Squishmallow I made sometime back. I could have just snuck that Squishmallow in, and no one would even notice the imposter. Missed opportunities. I then took out a clump of green wool. I'm needle felting a backpack. It might look like I'm starting with a lot of wool, but once I stab it down, it's gonna be a fraction of the size. I'm trying to make a bulbous shape for Bulbasaur's bulb. It ended up looking like a head of lettuce stuck on his back. So far, so good. I then added some cat ears to the mix. Even went as far as adding some freckles to him. He's got a bunch of like little green confetti on him, so that's what they're supposed to be. He's not the only blue Among Us crewmate waddling around suspiciously. We've also got Squirtle, of course. Instead of some lettuce, he's carrying around a shell. He's supposed to be inside the shell, but I don't know how to recreate that on an Among Us body. So instead, he's just wearing his shell on his back, tied down with some toilet paper wrapped around. I wasn't loving the whole toilet paper look though, so I did add a little circle of felt. I'm trying to make that look like the underbelly of Squirtle. I'm using fabric markers. Not sure if he's pulling off the look, but an attempt is being made. Yeah, that definitely does not look like a turtle's underbelly. It looks like some sort of poop-colored snowflake. That was a huge disappointment, so I do end up abandoning that turd. Now we're back to a plain white underbelly. Best to keep it simple. Next up is Eevee. I wasn't actually gonna make Eevee, but then I figured, why not? She might be good to add into the thumbnail. Everyone loves Eevee. Eevee has multiple evolutions, all very lovely in their own way, except for this one. But anyways, today I'm sticking to just Eevee. Nothing fancy. I don't want to get too crazy. By the way, I know I'm referring to Eevee as a she. I am aware that she can be a boy or a girl. It's just that this specific Eevee, my Among Us Eevee, is a girl. Yours can be whatever you want it to be. I just know someone's gonna mention it, so I thought I'd cover my bases. So yeah, my Eevee's got a long, flowing white Gandalf beard. She grew it herself. And that's pretty much it for him. Moving on to Jigglypuff. This is another one that I wasn't really planning on making. I didn't even make the base structure when I initially stabbed together all the egg bases. You know what they always say, the more work, the merrier. But I was only willing to put in half the work for Jigglypuff, so she's only ending up with half a body. A little pink bloody stump. Cute, cute. So I've got my whole team of Pokemon assembled, but something was looking a little unfinished. This needed something more. An arena where they can fight to the death.
Fight!
They're all gonna be meeting at the iconic Among Us table. I used some pieces of cardboard to add some elevation to my little diorama. I wanted it to be very obvious that this is Pokemon but in Among Us, not the other way around. Hopefully they already look like that to you, but I thought this would further convince any doubters. I even added my own Pokeball flair to the meeting table. I wanted the table to look like it's not just a prop, it's in use as we speak. So I added some little immersive details to it. A slice of pizza, some trays, a spilled glass of water. I think it's looking pretty good. Look at that elevation. Flawless execution. I'm attempting to make everything out of felt as much as possible. I wanted the benches to be slightly raised as well. It's just made entirely out of felt, so it's not too stable, but it can hold the Among Us Pokemon perfectly in place. In fact, it could probably hold 200,000 Pokemon if I shoved them in there, but I won't. I'm not gonna glue the actual Pokemon down. I wanted to be able to move them around if I wanted to. Plus, I think it's really fun to flick them. I mean, I could just flick this entire thing. I am strong enough to do that. It's just more satisfying to flick them one at a time.